Hey, this is Robert Dominguez with Bigfoot Club, and you're listening to Creepers Cryptid Paranormal Corner. I was just going to say, I tend to like Australian stories, like Yowie stories, better than I like North American Bigfoot stories. Steven and I, we don't call ourselves podcasters. We call ourselves cryptid sports entertainers.
That's excellent.
So
I've told Robert this before. I don't want to go to a paranormal place or a haunted place where there's some evil entities involved.
Yeah.
And sure as hell, this place had an evil entity apparently, but I didn't know that. I see it. The door's open, and I see like a dark figure, a shadow.
Right, guys. Welcome to Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner. Today, I'm talking to Robert and Stephen Dominguez from Bigfoot Club. How you going?
How's it going?
we're good. Thanks for having us on, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, sweet.
Thank you.
What got you into doing the podcast? Where did it all begin?
I used to be a Bigfoot researcher for the Texas Bigfoot Research Center in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so whenever I was doing that stuff, Steven was like 7. And so I would take him out like whenever we would go do outings like in East Texas to do Bigfoot research. I would take him, he would tag along with me. And so we would go into the woods and stuff and just hang out and just do research. And so as I kind of got older, whenever you're with a group, John, sometimes they have like parameters or like rules and regulations that stuff you can't comment on or talk about. Like you can't talk about the paranormal, or you can't talk about portals or the woo that a lot of Bigfoot people talk about.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't allowed to talk about some of that stuff. And the podcast kind of came along later on. I said, you know what? I want to voice my opinion about stuff and stuff that I feel that I need to talk about. And so that's how, we started doing Bigfoot Club, because actually Steven was my first choice to do Bigfoot Club. But at the time he had twin boys. And so his scheduling was really, really not good. And so I had these other people come and do co-host with me. And, they were great. They were great people, and they're no longer a part of the podcast. And so as the boys got older, Steven had more time. And I just think with Steven and I, the podcast has taken off like, immensely. And we've tripled our downloads. And so that's kind of how we got started. That's the whole thing. Steven?
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it right in the nose on that. I mean, yeah, we when you started doing it, I think I started a new job, and the boys were still toddlers, and I was still trying to figure out how to be a dad and to 2 kids nonetheless at the same time. So I just know that whenever he started doing the podcast, I can see mentally, like on the mental health side, he was doing a really good job, like, voicing his opinions and when you get to talk about something you love and something you're passionate about, you kind of go into another dimension or another realm.
Yeah, you do. I know exactly.
A place, a different place where you're in just your whole, if that makes sense. So the job I had at the time was very, very it challenged me mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and it put me in a very depressive state.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we want to do one of the people that was on his show. He was like, hey, he's not going to be here. I need you to fill in. Could you fill in? We'll bring the stuff over to your apartment. I'm all like, yeah, sure. Why not? This will be my first time being on the show. And I remember just being and talking, and I didn't think about my job, how stressful it was. It just made me happy. So I was all like, wow, like this is actually really therapeutic.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, mate.
Yeah, so it's just it really opened up my eyes and just made me open just to be like, okay, well, we can just talk about stuff that we know and what we've experienced, and we can go from there. And unfortunately, those other 2 co-hosts, they dropped out, and I stepped up, and here we are now.
Yeah, he's killing it now.
Uh,
I know even when I come on your show, from going on to your show and doing an episode with you guys, I gained 500 subscribers in like the next month after it. It was awesome. You just
Wow.
do such a good job, and everyone loves it, obviously, because they keep coming back and you just keep
Did you
getting
really?
bigger and bigger. And yeah, easy.
I was going to say that I know whenever we went through our Australian run with you and Yowie Dan and Gary Lynn and Attila, I think we doubled our downloads in Australia. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that we had tapped into that market that we normally don't tap into, and I said yes. So I was pretty happy with that. So I know, just talking to all you guys, it was a great feeling. That's probably like the best year we had, right, Steven?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think that run was it was awesome because it was like, okay, well, next week we got so and so, and we're like, oh, okay, we're just literally doing an Australian run,
Yeah.
and every person we've talked to has been amazing, awesome, and we had good chemistry with them, and you guys are just funny too.
yeah.
You have a good sense of humor.
I've got a couple of mates that I've done interviews and that with too,
Yeah.
that you can have on the show
Yeah.
too, and they're bloody good. So it's good though, because we get to tell our story to you guys over there, and then you guys fill us in with stuff that's going on over there.
I was just going to say, I tend to like Australian stories, like Yowie stories, better than I like North American Bigfoot stories. I don't know why, but it seems like Yowie stories have a little bit more character. I don't know why, but they just do. Like most of the ones some of the stories I've read and I've heard, I said, man, these are like really interesting. Like most of the, the stuff in like North America, you see like a Bigfoot cross a road, or they see him like peeking through a window, and like in Australia, the Yowies like take swings at cars, when cars pass by, because they're pissed off at a car. And so I think stuff like that is just like, I don't know, something about, the Southern Hemisphere and Yowies, they're just stranger down there. So I've always enjoyed that.
I think it comes down to, it'd be our stories and encounters, and that'd be more like if you guys interviewed like a native Indian and get their stories, because I don't know if you've heard, Sarah would have spoke to you about in Australia, the Aboriginals always have a story they talk about with the Yowies having a treaty with them. They actually used to connect and work side by side back thousands of years ago. Every Aboriginal you talk to, elder and that, you mention Yowie, and they all talk about it. They know that it's not even like they might exist. They know that they exist and everything. And have you ever heard the story about the treaty?
No.
Well, there was a treaty apparently back thousands of years ago that the Yowies would look after the forest and the Aboriginals looked after the land. And when the Europeans come and settled, that treaty was broken between the two because the Aboriginals didn't uphold the whole look after the land. They lost the land to the white people. So after that, the Yowies and the Aboriginals, they didn't talk anymore. They clashed. So that could be why it's different over here, because the Yowies know what everyone did, and that could be why the encounters are so different to what you guys have over there. I've heard a lot of elders talk about the treaty that was there, and so that could be a reason why it's so different to what you guys are experiencing over there.
Huh. I've never heard that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Very
So
interesting.
Robert, what got you guys?
I know my first experience.
Yeah, you're right.
What was that, John? I couldn't hear you.
I was just about to say, what got you into going to look for Bigfoot?
No, I was just going to.
Like, what was your first experience? You remember? I was about to say say that. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. What kind of got me into Bigfoot was when I was a kid. My dad took me to a drive-in theater to go see The Legend of Boggy Creek, and it's a movie that's based in Arkansas, the Fouke Monster.
Yeah.
And so I was a little kid. I was probably like 5 or 6, and I was watching it, and I was terrified, but I would always like peek up to look. And ever since then, after that, I started like drawing pictures pictures of it, doing book reports. I'd go to the library and I could like show you exactly where all the like the cryptid books were at. I would just run to that one corner of the library and just like try to see what book was not checked out yet. And so I would do that. And it was just like one of those things. And like I was at work one day, this was in like the late 90s, and I just typed in Texas Bigfoot and it brought up this one guy named Luke Gross, and he was in Newcomerstown, Ohio, doing I think the 10th annual Bigfoot conference. And so I emailed him and I said, hey, how does one contribute to the Texas Bigfoot? Because at the time I didn't think there was any Bigfoot in Texas. And he wrote me back and said, hey, I want to call you. This is my number. And so we talked on the phone for like 4 hours, and he was forming Texas Bigfoot research. So I went to him, and I went to some guy's house in East Dallas. I didn't even know who he was. It was just a bunch of us just meeting up and just going to form a group. And I remember I was like in my 20s, and my mom was like real mad at me. You know, she says, why are you going to go meet some strangers? You don't even know. And I went out and I met them, and we formed Texas Bigfoot research. And then we started doing Bigfoot, because I didn't know. I go, there's Bigfoot in Texas? They go, yeah, East Texas. So we would go out and like I would experience stuff. I've never seen a Bigfoot. Let me just say it, John. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I've seen stuff. I've heard. I've seen like tracks and tree breaks, and I've been screamed at and whistled and hooted at. And so I can't. I can't say that I've seen one, but I've heard a lot of stuff that I can't explain.
For us in Australia, different for me because I always research everything. I always know what places. I've always wanted to go to Texas, so I always looked up stuff. But for the average people in Australia, you hear Texas, you think like desert, like just country, like with horses and cows, and there's no forests or anything like that. Like that's how people see it. You know what I mean? Over here, so when people do talk about like Texas Bigfoot, you're like, what are they doing out in the sand? Like. But because I've looked it up and that before, and I know that there's actually plenty of forest for them to live in. So
because like the east part of Texas, it's nothing but trees. It's called the Big Thicket, and there's the Sam Houston National Park, the David Crockett National Park, the Angelina National Forest. So there's lots of woods, and I've actually researched with this one guy from Washington State, and they got redwoods over in Washington State. And he tells me that East Texas is thicker than Washington State.
Yeah, right.
He says it's the thickest shit he's ever seen. Oh, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah, it's all good. Maybe just don't drop the C-bomb.
Sorry about that.
Anything but the C-bomb should be right.
Yeah. Okay. But Texas is the only state.
We're allowed to swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas is the only state that has like forests. They have like you said, deserts. They got mountains and they got ocean. They got like a coastal thing, and then they have plain flat prairie too. So they have a little bit of everything.
Well, that's what you think of for Australians. When you think of Texas, you think of desert and like the flat plains where there's nothing around. You don't think of mountains and forests, and so it's crazy when you first hear like, oh, the Bigfoot in Texas. It's like, what are they? Like a tan color so they can hide in the sand and that. But so you went out plenty of times with them and took Stephen a few times.
Yeah, he took me a couple times, and I think what got me into Bigfoot is that I think
they come in all different black.
But I think what like got me into Bigfoot was I guess like Robert already joined the group, and he didn't really tell that to me I don't think he told me. I just remember you got me that black book, Robert. Do you remember? You know what book I'm talking about? Where it actually has the shadow of a Bigfoot, and it's like everything paranormal and cryptid. It's like that's how I figured out about the Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, the New Jersey Devil, stuff that like I never thought of that people have supposedly seen or witnessed and stuff. And what got me was, I was like, okay, there's a Bigfoot. Okay, so what is a Bigfoot? What is a Sasquatch? It was a real detailed book, and I still have that book, Robert. I don't know if I told you, I still have it. I gotta find it. It's in the bookshelf. Nice. And I came across it the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the book that he gave me, and this is literally the book that got me into paranormal stuff and Bigfoot stuff.
Awesome.
And, yeah, so I mean, that's basically how that got me for where I am today now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know before we started recording, you were talking about you went out on a paranormal night recently.
Yeah, we
how'd that go?
I'll let Robert start that one.
Well, we were meeting up with the Goo Gals Paranormal, and the Goo Gals is these two girls, Jennifer Reuter and Jennifer Rose, two lovely ladies. They're super badasses. They're all female group from San Antonio, and so they were coming up to Cleburne. Cleburne's like an hour out from Dallas Fort Worth. That's where we live. Yep. And they were doing this one house called the 209 Mystery House. It's in Cleburne. Was I think built in like the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
And so supposedly there's a lot of paranormal activity. And so we meet up with them to have dinner, and then we go over to, because they were going to do paranormal stuff for that night. And we didn't plan on going because I didn't bring any gear at all. I didn't bring any kind of paranormal gear. And then they asked us while we were having dinner, because, hey, you want to come over to the house and check it out with us? And I go, yeah, sure. So I was a little hesitant because, like I said before, you know me, John, I in 2021, I went through like a big, I was paralyzed and I had to learn how to walk. And so I'm a firm believer that you have to be spiritually, mentally, physically, strong to do anything paranormal. So we ended up going to this house, and there's this lady with I think, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Wandering Paranormal, right?
Wandering
Paranormal was the lady. I think her name was Tracy. Do you remember that?
Yes. Wandering Soul Paranormal.
So we get there, John, and the Goo Gals were talking to her, and she was explaining stuff in the house, what rooms. It was a 2-story house. There's probably like 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms in the bottom, and probably like 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms on top. And so it was a really narrow house. And so as soon as we get there, I had a H2N Zoom, and it's an omnidirectional mic. So I had that going. And then like as they were talking and she was explaining all the rooms on the first floor, I heard like someone walking upstairs, and there was nobody upstairs. And I go, okay. And so I kind of point to Steven, and I kind of mouth, I go, there's something upstairs. And then he looks at me and goes, what? So, and then we decide to go upstairs, and I'm going to let Steven tell this part. So go ahead, Steven.
So we're going upstairs, and the house is so old, the foundation, the floor, it made you feel like you were tilting to the right, Robert?
Yeah, right.
Like that was my experience on that, and I felt unbalanced and uneasy. So I've told Robert this before. I go, I don't want to go to a paranormal place or a haunted place where there's some evil entities involved.
Yeah.
And sure as hell, this place had an evil entity apparently, but I didn't know that. Did not know that. So we're going up the stairs, and I'm the last one, and everyone's going up the stairs, and everyone's already on top of the second floor. I'm still on the second flooring for the second set of stairs to go up, and I could see the rooms. There to the right, there was a bathroom. Ahead of me, there's another bedroom, and then there's another bedroom over here. And the far left, there's a dark room. It's a bedroom.
Yeah.
The far left, I just happened to look, and I see it. The door's open, and I see like a dark figure, a shadow. And I couldn't really I go, is that because I could see the window. There's a window too in that room. Yeah. And I was like, is that a curtain? What is that? Like, and then I could see it slowly just move out of the door frame to the other side of that room. And I looked at Robert, I go, really? And I go, Robert, there's something in that room. He's like, what? There's something in that room. So we kind of walk, get upstairs and go to that room. And then Tracy was like, so you saw something in that room? Yeah, that's a nasty room. He's like that. Apparently whatever is in there doesn't is racist, doesn't like Mexicans. I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. So so it was definitely not. I was not happy that I saw it, but I saw something.
Yeah, because I was going to say that like there was a building right next to it, John, and like these houses were really close, probably like maybe like 10 feet apart, and they were really close. And so I was asking the lady, I said, "What's the building next door to us?" And she said, "Oh, that's the library." I go, "What's in there?" And she says, "Books and stuff." And no duh, but she was saying that there's a fully uniform of a Confederate soldier in there. And I go, "Oh, okay." And so there was a fully authentic. And so I was telling the girls, the Goo Gals, and I was explaining to Steven. So I have this theory when it comes to how you get a house and sometimes you get paranormal stuff, sometimes you don't. So I have this thing called blending over, spiritual blending over. Like if there's a house that's haunted, and they're really close to each other, the paranormal spirit doesn't know boundaries or walls or whatever, and so it may lean over to this building or that building. Our building may lean over to that building, so it could be just a spirit just coming in and just hanging out and then walking back over. So I told her, I strongly believe that this is probably like a bleed over. So you're probably getting some paranormal people from like the library and stuff. So that's just the take I had on it.
Or the Confederate soldier,
That's that's Confederate soldier being racist. That's about right, doesn't it?
Yeah. So Robert, he pointed out that across from that room was a closet. Now, mind you, like most of these closets in this house had windows.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's weird.
I find that odd. I find that weird. But this closet didn't have a window. It had an electrical box. And Robert pointed out, I go, yeah, that's probably where it's drawing power from. And I think they said that there is an attic too, right, Robert? Where a strange purple light is showing out of the window of the attic, and they don't know what light it is. So I was like, wow, this house is not. It just already giving me the heebie-jeebies and what I've already saw too. So I think we stayed there about a good hour, right, Robert?
Yeah,
I'd say about an hour.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out to you, John. I don't know how it is in Australia, but like in Texas, they have like the attic to the top of the house, and they'll have like a little window on the attic, and then it'll be like almost like it has like wooden shingles. It's not completely like covered. You can still vents air out out of the attic. And so whenever they would see this blue tint, you could see it through that one window that has like the wooden shingles, and they could like there's like an inch between each wooden shingle. So like I said, like it'll vent the air out. And so they could see like that blue tint inside there, and they didn't know why they had a blue tint in there. There's not a blue bulb, but there's not any of that stuff. So it's just kind of odd.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy. There's a lot of places around here that are haunted and that, and I'm good mates with Attila. That's what he does. He loves that sort of stuff, and it's not my cup of tea. I could have made heaps of videos by now going to him, but that sort of stuff terrifies me because I don't want to bring anything home with me.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot of people getting attachments and bringing it home and stuff. So I will eventually one day, once I know how to prepare myself properly to go and do those things. And so I know it'd be pretty funny because I'll probably scream like a little bitch. So it'd be a good video for YouTube. But there's heaps of stuff around here. Like a lot of Attila's, if you've watched any of his stuff he's got on Tubi, he's got all these paranormal stuff. A lot of them paranormal locations.
Yeah.
Like within half an hour drive of where we live. So it's that's not my cup of tea, but some of the stories you hear are wild, and some of Attila's stories, the place they've gone into abandoned nut houses and stuff like that. And it's understandable why the things hang in these areas with all the negative energy that's there. You think about like an old psych ward, all the negative energy from all the people that were there suffering.
Yeah.
And we were talking one day as well. It's like, imagine how many people have been horrible in these mental wards because of stuff like this as well. it happening at home and they think they're going crazy, or they're going out in the forest and seeing a Bigfoot and they think they're going crazy, end up in the nut house or like in the mental institution, and it's all real, and it's not that they're going crazy. It's just they've actually just seen something that's out there that people don't talk about.
I don't think I could.
That's kind of sad though. That's pretty sad.
Yeah,
I don't think I could go to an insane asylum, an abandoned one.
Yeah,
because that's just. I don't think there's evil entities there. I mean, there might be, but I know there's a lot of disturbed.
It's just even just the crazy people that lived in there would be enough. That if they've come back, you got to deal with them. And,
no. So I think what we did with the Ghoul Gals was a big step, because I've said I'm never doing that, because I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to bring an attachment home to my family and stuff. And Robert has a new profile I'm looking at too, and so we were like, let's we're here. Let's pray before we go inside, and let's pray whenever we get out. So there was a lot of audio files that they showed us too.
I would say they
captured,
and it was pretty bad audio, right?
Yeah, the audio was not human.
Yeah,
it sounded more like a creature.
Yeah,
and it was very very deep, guttural, like an animal. Like in most cases, you would probably think it's a Yowie or Bigfoot.
Yeah,
but it was definitely not human, and I think that's what kind of set me on edge too. I was like, okay, we need to go.
Yeah,
we need to go, because I don't know what it's capable of, because I think there was some poltergeist activity too.
Yeah,
and
they had like after we left, they went live on TikTok, and they had the house had like these cameras and alarms on all the windows and doors, and so they were upstairs, and I think as I was watching it on TikTok, they had one of the alarms go off, like a door was opening. So they rushed downstairs, and there was nothing open, and so they had to call the lady and ask her, say, hey, did you set this off? And she goes, no, everything's disabled. Everything's disabled for y'all, to open stuff as freely as you want to. And as soon as that she was explaining that to him, somebody whistled. And I said on TikTok, I said, someone whistled, and they go, yeah, we heard it. And then they had a REM pod that kept going off, and like a spirit had walked over to the REM pod and was setting it off. So I don't know. It was pretty creepy, and I think they end up logging off like around 2 a.m.
Yeah, they slept in the room where I saw the shadow. I was like, you guys are crazy. You guys are you gals are badasses and crazy.
They are badasses. They are super badasses.
They're just awesome peeps, and more power to those type of people who are brave to do that kind of stuff. But I could think I speak for myself on this. Like I wouldn't want to go to a place where it's just known for that type of activity.
Me either.
And I just don't want it to get familiar with me, and I don't want to get familiar with it, and I just want to stay away from that type of stuff.
That's it
entirely.
It's scary enough going out in the bush and having something chase you or throw something at you.
Yeah.
And something that's not physically there, you can't try and defend yourself.
Exactly.
I was just gonna say that whenever we interviewed Attila, and we were talking about the paranormal stuff, and I asked Attila, I said, do you ever get anything like? Did you ever like get an attachment, have something come home with you? And his answer was so simple to me, the way he answered. He says, Robert, I just film it. I don't do the stuff there. I just hold the camera. And I go, oh, okay. So he just said, I just film it.
He's got a couple of stories. There's a couple of stories he's told me of things that have happened, but a lot of you saying like that voice sounded like a creature. I've been out in the bush here even, where my last videos I've had where I've caught stuff on thermals and that, and I've been in the bush standing there and heard something go, John, say my name, but in like this creepy ass voice, and I've turned around half to think God's going to turn around and see Attila or Yowie Dan turn up to scare me or something. Like knew that I was going out, thought, we're going to go play a trick. No one there. And I was like, yep, go into the car. I'm out of here. Don't know what that was. I don't know if it was a creature or something else that's in the area, and got out of there pretty quick. It's terrifying, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. No, I think that's crazy.
Do y'all have lore?
Yeah, there's a lot of Aboriginal stories.
I was going to ask John, do y'all have lore in Australia?
Yeah, if you look up the Dreamtime stories and that, there's a lot of stories of spirits and creatures, all the Aboriginal stories from thousands of years ago. And there is a lot of talk of spirits in the forest and in the bush. And that's why a lot of the time the Aboriginals didn't go into the bush at night, because of the yowies and the bad spirits and stuff. And they do a lot of stuff now. They've always done it for the Aboriginals. When people come to the tribes, come to the lands, they do like smoking ceremonies, and it was to put protection. They do a smoking ceremony and a welcome to the area, and that gave the travelers or the visitors protection from the land, the people, the spirits, and the creatures in the area. So it was a tradition that every time someone come into town, they'd do that to make sure they were safe from being out in the forest or the bush around their camp. So, yeah, they're a big believer in spirits, and they know about the creatures. We were talking about that before as well. And it doesn't go into such detail as your lore and that you have over there, because a lot of our Aboriginal stories and languages and history were lost when they come over. The Europeans come over and took over the land. A lot of it was lost in conflict and just neglect of information and just the barriers between languages. So there still is a lot, but yeah, it's pretty wild, that sort of stuff. And he's going to do it again, or is that one and done for you?
I don't know. It's one of those things where it was awesome to do, and I was very proud of myself.
Yeah,
doing something like that. I wouldn't mind going to a place and maybe do an investigation, as long as not spending the night. I don't know. That's because if I want to sleep in my bed, comfortable.
Yeah,
and just have my guardian angels with me in my own realm and my own sanctity and my own fortress of solitude.
Yeah,
but at another place, I don't know. You would have to ask Robert on that to see what he would want to do on that.
I would just say that because I was part of a paranormal group for 10 years, John. I was a case director for paranormal investigations of North Texas, and we did a bunch of investigations. We always did ones that involved children. If it involved children, then we would try to take care of them right away. If there's a spirit involving a child on it, and try to solve that as fast as possible. I've done a lot of investigations, and I usually go in there because I'm very spiritual. So I go in and I pray, and I say, hey, I want to go in here and I want to find out what's here, and I want to help the family. I do not want an attachment, please. If I just want to. So it's just my belief. If you go in there without any kind of strength, you go in there and you say, use my body or use my energy, then you're inviting something in.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. It could be, a demon, it could be a spirit. And it just if you have jewelry on, like a chain or a crystal or stone, I believe that they can just attach themselves to that and then go home with you. And so that's just my belief on it. And right now I'm running the group on Facebook. No, and I was helping I'm helping this group on Facebook right now. And there's a guy, you should probably have him on your show too. Scott Perry. He's a warlock. He's a witch. And he's helped me out a lot of times. And whenever, so if I don't pray, then I have Scott do something for me. He'll say something in Latin, and then he'll protect me.
That's awesome.
Because there was a time where I was I went out to go see one of my ex-girlfriends in Phoenix. I had just bought this brand new camera. It was a night vision camera, and my ex, she lived right next to this desert. So we walked out to the desert to go run this camera, and I had a K2 meter with me. And the K2 meters, they run to up to 20 milligauss. And whenever you do a paranormal stuff, sometimes you'll get 3-5 milligauss. And so while we were standing in the desert, this thing was pegging at 20 milligauss. and it wouldn't go away. And like everywhere I walked, it would just keep going. And so my ex-girlfriend, she goes, Rob, I don't want that shit in my house. And so I was in Phoenix going on. I was in the desert. I got maybe like a entity attached to me and it's following me all the way back to her house. What can you do? Yep. So he did some kind of Latin chant. He told me to pour some salt like in the doorway. And I did that, and then the K2 meter stopped. The K2 meter stopped.
Yeah, right.
And so I was able to go back in. So he's helped me out a lot on a couple cases too. Because I still get cases now, and I don't. With us doing the podcast, John, the podcast takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
And so I don't do a lot of investigations anymore unless somebody really needs help. Then we'll go out and help them. But
yeah, that's awesome.
I devote a lot of time to the podcast. So so I kind of like whenever I get a case, I divvy it up to someone else. I say, hey, do you want a case? You want to take care of this? You want to take care of this person? Just let me know whether you're taking care of them properly. And they end up doing that. So that's the way I look at it. Because like I was telling Sarah Bignall this, that Steven and I we don't call ourselves podcasters. We call ourselves cryptid sports entertainers.
That's excellent.
So
when you call yourself that before each episode, you're going to get 2 beers and smash them over your head like Stone Cold and smash them.
Yep.
That's what you're going to do. That should be your intro. Do the 2 cans, smash them, skull them, and then give them a bird.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
John, John, I already like you. I like you even more now.
Yeah, you can tell what I grew up watching as a kid.
Stone Cold, man. Stone Cold.
I grew up through the Attitude Era, the all of it, the ruthless aggression, all that. That's how I grew up. I think the first naughty thing I did as a kid was give my sister Walls of Jericho.
You know what's
Walls of Jericho. Oh man.
She's laying on the lounge watching the TV in a little Barbie lounge, and I ran over and got the legs and give her the old Walls of Jericho, and she wouldn't tap. She just screamed, and I got grounded for a week.
Oh no.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah. So what's probably when you've gone out with your Bigfoot stuff? What's probably the most significant thing you've ever found?
Let me see here. Most of the time, most of the time whenever I do go out, John, I don't tell people where I'm going. We just go out. We just go out and we look at an area and we'll just walk miles into the woods. And I always find footprints. I always find like 14, 15-inch footprints. I always find tree breaks.
Yeah.
I find all that stuff all the time. So, like in Texas, we have, I don't know if you have them in Australia, we have cedar trees in Texas. And during the summertime, the Bigfoots, they tend to use these cedar trees as like a bug repellent. And so they'll lean against this tree and they'll rub, and then they'll break off the very tip of it to, kind of claim their area. So in Texas, if you find cedar trees, you see like the branches all jacked up, and you see the very tip of it broken off, most likely there's probably like a Bigfoot in that area. So
yeah, that's awesome.
But that's a really good question. Do you guys have like electrical right of ways through Australia?
Yeah, we've got them all through national parks and that, and they always cut the grass real short so it doesn't catch, like there's no fires underneath it and that. It's always right in the middle of the forest. Either side's really thick. It'd be the same as you guys usually have them. Right. A lot of people go deer hunting through them, don't they?
Yeah, because like in Texas, it's always been my belief that Bigfoot's use that as a sidewalk going through counties. And so whenever I get a sighting report, like in Texas, 90% is like the time it's right next to electrical right of way. And so I think they use it as a sidewalk to go through county. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Anyway, but yeah,
we have them, and a lot of our encounters and experiences with Yowies over here as well are always around water. And we call them, me and Attila call them greenways. So you've got your main river system, and you always have the little creeks that feed into the rivers, and the bush, and that's really thick. So it's like little creeks that go through, and you always seem to find a lot of the encounters are either at the rivers or in these greenways. So some of them can go for 3-4 Ks, and some of them even go through housing estates and stuff like that. And it's enough that people are having encounters there because they're traveling, say, from the river, try and get to the mountains or get to another location, because a lot of these creeks are coming off all the big, like the Blue Mountains where the boys go over here and stuff. And I know a lot of my stuff I've had have happened around these greenways as well. So you guys would have the same over there. It's just easier for them. If they want to hide, they can still hide and still move even during the day if they have to. So it's pretty cool that a lot of our encounters and that are in the same sort of locations. It's just different side of the world.
Yeah, I was going to say that I feel that, because I know a lot of people, some people believe this, and I strongly believe it, that Bigfoots use infrasound. And so infrasound is similar to EMF. So the characteristics for EMF is the same as infrasound. So I've always believed that these electrical right-of-ways, they have a ton of EMF. Ton of EMF. So I think Bigfoot's probably, or Yowies, they probably use this as like a weapon, like they weaponize it. Yeah. So if there's a hunter there and they see a Yowie or like a Bigfoot, and they use this EMF and this infrasound to scare the person even more, because I've heard stories of well-seasoned hunters that they run out of a electrical right-of-way because they've seen a Bigfoot, and they just like blindly shoot behind them, and they normally don't do that because it's safety. You don't shoot just straight into the woods without So it's always been my belief, and so everybody that I've interviewed in the past, I've gone back and I've asked them, "Hey, how are you feeling? Did you feel nauseated, or you have a headache, or did you feel dizzy?" Because everybody responds differently to EMF and like infrasound. And I know the infrasound thing, it's just conjecture. It's just can I prove Bigfoots do that? No. But it's just like I've interviewed so many people, John, and I've kind of run in that story, and I started to realize, I said, you know what, this is a good possibility. A Bigfoot might use this as a weapon to get people out of an area.
Sound happened to me. No, I would have told that when I was on your podcast.
Yeah,
I had the infrasound with the ringing in my ears and couldn't speak and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If they go there, if they can do that sort of stuff, even it'd be sort of like they supercharge themselves too. They could be like, it's like they're charging themselves up for like one of them dodgy Tesla cars. Doesn't take as long.
Or Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, that's it. Sensor beams.
Yeah. Sensor beams. Yeah. I could use one of those right now.
How good would that be? That was the other show awesome. That I grew up on as a kid too.
Yep. Same here.
Dragon Ball
every
Z.
morning before school. Yeah, every morning before school at 7:00 was Pokemon, 7:30 Digimon, and 8:00 was Dragon Ball Z, and my bus went at 8:30, so I had about 30 seconds to run from the house to the bus.
Oh.
I had to watch all three every day, every morning.
See, that was different over here because they would play it after school.
Yeah,
so
right.
it would show.
No, terrible shows here.
Yeah, so at 4 p.m. they would show it, and we would get off at 3:30, and we'd have 30 minutes to hurry up and get home. And some people say, "Hey man, you want to come over and hang out?" No, man. Are we gonna watch Dragon Ball Z? No. Okay, well I gotta go home and watch Dragon Ball Z, man.
Yeah, that's it. It is the best.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it, but apparently they made more.
Oh yeah, there's
Dragon Ball Super or whatever.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Super, and it's just.
I know they did the GT and that, but I didn't know about the Super. I'll have to have a look for it, try and find it.
Yeah, there's like I think over 200 episodes already.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
I can't wait for the day. I want to buy the DVD box set of all the Dragon Ball Z, and I can't wait for the day when my son's old enough to make him sit down and watch it with me.
Yep. That's the dream. I'm waiting for my boys to appreciate it and and get a little bit older, and then
That's it.
I'll start playing that for them because I have the first 2 sagas on
Yeah.
Blu-ray, so I
Yeah,
still
nice.
gotta collect the rest of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
With doing your podcast and that, what's probably the best episode you've done? Like, what's the one that stands out for you the most?
Probably the one that stands out the most. I know, Steven. I know you know what I'm talking about. What I'm thinking about, right,
Yeah.
Steven?
Yeah.
Is there's this one story, because we've done it on our podcast. There's one story of this lady. Her name is Deborah Thornton, and it was in East Texas.
I think this is my favorite.
And she had
one.
a story of this was Deborah Thornton. Right. This was in the 60s, and it was in East Texas, and it's It's in an area where there's a lake there now, so we couldn't go back and look at it. But she was traveling down the road, and I'll try to say as fast as I can. Her boyfriend, it was a truck. Her boyfriend got a flat tire, and they were probably like maybe 2 miles from like town. So he didn't have a spare, so he had to walk back into town. And so she decided to stay there and like sleep in the cab of the truck. And she was awoken by a big hairy arm sticking its arm through the window of the driver's side, and it was grabbing her ankle and trying to pull her out. And she had her other foot on the door, and she said all she could see was a big hairy arm and a big penis. And so and she said it was erect, and it was. I go, what color was it? And she said it was like brown, brown, pink. It was spotty, it had like pink and brown stuff on it. And she said she talked about its nipples, talked about its belly button, and she described the colors to the T. And she said she had a Coke bottle, and so she was, this was in the 60s, so that was a glass Coke bottle. And so she grabbed it and started hitting its arm. And eventually these 2 other Bigfoot, like up the road, she could see through the windshield. They came out of the woods and onto the road. And one of them was like pregnant, and they were screaming at the male. And so he let her go. And then all 3 of them walked back into the woods. And so we interviewed her for like 4 hours, and we had like 300 questions, and some of them were kind of redundant. And John, she never veered from her story. It's the same story. And
there would have been so many questions.
Yeah, so we asked her a bunch of questions about it and stuff. So, and when we interviewed her, she was like in her 70s already. And so, and so she was a tough lady. She had like a big body jumpsuit on where she would just zip it up, and she had like a 38 inside her bra. She just had it tucked in her bra. And so she was a tough lady. And so we had that story. And then the other story was, it's probably like in the late 90s. This is when we had just formed the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. We had a hotline, and people would call it. And so I think I answered it one time, and I had Luke Gross, my mentor. We're on this conference call, and it was a lady from Kentucky, and she said that she lived in this holler, and that they call the woods in Kentucky hollers. They call like you would say the bush. They call the woods hollers. So she said she was in this holler, and then she had this house or shack at the end of this bottom of this mountain. And she said that Bigfoot wanted to come down and have sex with her. And I said, well, how did you know that? And she said, well, I could see his glowing penis, and it was bouncing as it coming down the mountain. and I turned and I looked to Luke Gross, and I said, is that possible? Is that possible? He says, well, Bob, there's some phosphorescence. I'm trying to do Luke's voice. There's some phosphorescence mushrooms that you can touch, and maybe it's possible Bigfoot could touch his penis and he can make it glow. He was just saying that. And so I go, okay. So we end up talking to her, and we end up finding like a local group that could, big time. And so we end up finding like a local group that can go help her, and they went out there. So we never heard back from them. So that's one of the stories that's always like, I'm proud to say that at least on Bigfoot Club, we always talk about Bigfoot penis all the time. So it's not a bit.
The first story you just give me then, when you said she grabbed a Coke bottle, I was waiting for you to say, and she hit it on the erect penis. That's the first thing that came to my head was Please tell me she hit him straight on the dick. That is hilarious.
That would have been a bad day for him.
That would have been probably more. That would have been more productive, I think.
Yeah.
Because he would have just bent his knees and ran off or something.
That's hilarious. I haven't heard that one, but the
So-
second one I heard you talking about it with Sarah, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. The old metallic blue glowing penis running at you.
Because she was asking me.
It is a sign of someone wanting to do that to you if they've got that.
Yeah, she was asking me, do you have any weird? Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any yaoi like penis stories or anything like that? Or
Nah, not that I know of. Sarah has a lot more people she talks to. She might be able to find one for you. It's freaking hilarious.
No, for some reason, Robert, I thought you're gonna say the one where the Bigfoot that was hurt in the middle of the woods that broke his leg or something, and the lady went out to go see what the screaming was.
Oh yeah.
She saw the Bigfoot it was holding his leg and it was screaming.
Oh yeah, I can tell that story.
Yeah, and then she's I think this is the one where while she saw that, a Bigfoot jumped over her and she looked up and saw his scrotum. And I was just thinking, oh man, if a Bigfoot's jumping over you, I don't want to get hit by anything else. Hit by
the hammer.
Because I don't want to get and then get hit. Because that is one story to tell. Like that is, you can't even be embarrassed about it. I was like,
she got teabagged.
I got dick slapped. I got dick slapped by Bigfoot. I mean, you just can't. You can't. But that Bigfoot jumped over her, and
I'm sorry, John. Sorry.
That's
Bigfoot
excellent.
jumped over her and picked up the baby Bigfoot that was hurt, and took off. And I thought that's the story you were going to say, Robert. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a good one.
What I found really interesting about that story, that one was pretty interesting because I had never heard a story of a Bigfoot hurt or bleeding. Never.
Yeah.
And then whenever Matt told us that story about, it jumping over the lady and she saw the scrotum, and I go, oh, so she got teabagged. So, okay, that's awesome.
Damn, Sasquatch rubbed his sack on my face.
Yeah, that is. We're terrible. That's
sack squatch.
Sack squatch.
John, I don't think John, I don't think you're ever going to get anybody talk about facts and penises on your show about Bigfoot. So
that's all right. Yeah, Dan's probably liable to drop something like that too. So he's a bit wild. He's got some stories.
Sorry.
Dan. Yeah, he does have some stories.
Yeah,
he'll be the one that finds one of them stories, 100%.
With the thong on, with thongs.
I did an interview with him last weekend or the weekend before, and we hadn't spoken in ages. And we spoke for like an hour or so before we started to record, and we were having a couple of drinks. And by the time we done the episode, we were that pissed, that drunk that we just scrapped it. It was like a Joe Rogan experience. It was the shit that was coming out of our mouths, and we're slurring our words and dropping glasses. And I was like, that's pretty good, but I don't think we can use that yet.
No.
It was excellent.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I love him.
Yeah, he's really good.
Like he sends me videos all the time. He sends me videos of his plants.
Yeah.
And he looks under the plants for spiders. And he shows me under the plants. He goes, look, Bob, and he'll show me videos of his plants. And I asked him about spiders, and he'll look everywhere for spiders. He'll send me 10 videos that he's looking for a video. Yeah. I mean, for spiders on his video.
I hate spiders. Give me a brown snake that can kill you in 30 minutes any day. Keep spiders away from me.
I can't do neither. So I don't know why. Australians are so nonchalant. You're the first Australian to say, "Oh, spiders, yeah, I'm scared of them." But other people are like,
I think it was when I was a kid. We've got these white tip spiders in Australia, and they only really affect you if you're allergic to them. And if you're allergic to them, say you get bitten on the arm, you get that necrosis or whatever, so all the meat around it eats away and falls apart. And you got to have all this medication and that. But every year around the same time, that same spot will eat away and fall apart again. It's every year, nearly to the day it happens. Yeah. So we had one of them in the house, and I've come out to the kitchen, and it dropped off the roof and landed on my head.
That's scary.
And my mum and my nan were there, and they both crash tackled me to the ground and belt the absolute piss out of me trying to get this spider off me. So I think that's what it is. I think it's more I've got PTSD when I see spiders. I think nan and mum beating the shit out of me again trying to get that spider.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you said if it bites you and if it bits your head,
Yeah.
that's really, really close to
Yeah. But the way they
brain and
tackled me to
Yeah.
the ground and bashed me up trying to get this spider off me, I think that's why I hate spiders so much now, because every time I see a spider, I'm like, no, mummy, don't hit me.
Yeah, that's PTSD right there. That's classic PTSD. Yeah, no, I hear you on that.
Might call it a day for now. Can you guys just let everyone know where they can find you?
The Twitch, I plan on returning. I'm just trying to get everything set up. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where I'm in a hiatus from it, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to come back and do the perfect time. I haven't really figured that out yet, but yeah, no, I do still have my Twitch.
Yeah.
If you want to follow, subscribe.
Yeah, I'll put it in the
I'll
links and that for everyone anyway. So
Yeah,
if you go back
appreciate
to
it.
it, and if not, they can still look up stuff. So
They can find us at www.bigfootclubpodcast.com. And then if they want to look for us on social media, we're at Bigfoot Club, the number 1. And that's all social media. And if they want to email us, it's at bigfootclub1@gmail.com.
that's awesome, guys. I love you on your social media, all your little memes and that you make up too. They're crackers. You do a good job with them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
Robert.
Yeah, I work really hard on those, man.
Yeah, they
It's
love awesome.
like,
Always
it's a lot
laugh
of work.
at them.
You know, I got it. We're a point where Facebook is now paying me now.
Oh, really? That's awesome. How good's that? Thanks heaps for coming on and telling us about what you've experienced and tell us about the podcast, and we'll do it again soon. But hope you guys enjoyed it. It wasn't too rough.
No, it wasn't. Appreciate it, John.
No.
Thanks for that. I'll talk to you in a bit.